It is time for your favorite Android podcast from the crew of myandroidusers.com. Kick back, relax, and enjoy another fine episode from these Google fanboys and gals as they navigate Android from a blindness perspective. And now, here are your hosts. Hello, and welcome to episode 111 of the Blind Android Users Podcast. We're recording today on Saturday, January 21, 2023. I'm Warren Carr, and I'm so glad to have our members back. We got a couple not in here, but Doc is back from the dog school, and nice to see him back again. And he'll be telling us a little bit about that process if he wanted to. Fee is here with us today, Austin Pinto and John Dyer. Both Ed and Miriam, the red-headed stranger, are not here today. Coming up in this episode, while we do not have announcements, we have something called In the News in its place. We then turn on to the digital well-being, where we'll be talking about that entry in the system settings. Then John brings us the Talkback highlights, and today we're looking at the spell checker. And we close the segment with a listener segment called Your Questions. Guys, welcome to episode 111. John, what's up with you, my man?
Hey, I'm doing good. I had a pretty typical week. Jack was sick, so he had to stay home from school. So it seemed like a longer week than normal. And this morning I got out and cleaned out the gutters of my house. So I survived another year of home ownership. I didn't fall or anything like that.
You know, that's very impressive because for a blind person to do that, neighbors would be kind of holding their breaths and, oh my gosh, I hope he doesn't fall. And I'm impressed, bro.
Thank you. Yeah.
You know, they stand by and watch me when I'm cutting my grass. He actually does it. Does a good job. So thank you so much for doing that. I really like that.
I think
Yeah.
Warren, some of our listeners may not know what gutters are, so you can explain to them.
John?
Oh, that's what we call like the things that go on the roof that catch the water. Is it called something else somewhere else?
We call them gutters. I don't know.
Okay, yeah.
And then it leads off the edge of the roof down.
Yeah, it goes down a pipe,
a drain
yeah.
pipe, doesn't it? So you don't get
Yeah,
a load of water on the roof.
And
one needs to clean those because you got leaves accumulating there and things like that. So it makes sense to do that.
And I'm not gonna lie, last year I skipped it, and there were little trees growing in there. I think there were like four or five little trees and like roots in there and stuff. So I was like, okay, good thing.
Never ever forget to clean those.
Fee, you are back. You are not going to be with us here today, but we are glad you are here with us today. You are going to be going to a concert, but things happened, and we'd rather have you than going to a concert.
Yeah, I made it. We've had a lot of sunshine lately, which has been nice. Still cold, but sunny during the day. So I've been on some nice walks. Still preparing for my service next week, which I still haven't written a sermon for yet, but you know, there's nothing like a bit of adrenaline at the last minute. I did an interview yesterday talking all about phones and promoting the podcast, so that'll be put on an internet radio station in a couple of weeks, and then it'll be on a podcast. Not this one, another one. And yeah, I've been enjoying Braille and various gadgets and getting to know my watch more, and yeah, quite a busy week. Quite a good week.
That's good. Austin, what's up with you? You are not feeling so good, but goodness, we thank you for being here.
So this week was a very up and down week with seizures and all those treatment and all that. Even today I've got some throat pain, but I just thought I'll give my attendance in the intro segment and just then leave after that to rest a bit. And I will be producing the podcast tomorrow. rendering and publishing all the episodes. So it's doing good now. It's really getting cold. It's really this year has been one of the coldest years, and in India we don't have heating, so we just need to wear warm clothing. So things
Ooh.
are looking good. Yeah, because we never expect that the temperatures would dip at least 9 degrees, 8 degrees. In the north, they might be having heating, but not in the west side of the country.
Bit like how most houses here in the UK don't have air conditioning.
Yeah, we have
just
to have air
heating.
conditioning here.
Mm.
Yeah, that's kind of something, isn't it? And when it takes you unawares and all of a sudden it's cold or extremely hot, then you're in trouble. It's just like Seattle here. Most people don't have, air conditioning. And so it's kind of crazy.
Is that why they're sleepless?
Yeah, exactly. Doug, my man, tell us about that dog school.
Yeah, so just spent 2 weeks in New York State, just outside NYC in Yorktown Heights. So on a regular basis, I was in White Plains, literally about a block away from the hospital where DMX was brought prior to his death. So still had someone fencing up. So that was a little bit of an interesting sightseeing event. Yeah, basically just trained 2 weeks. Came home last week with a just about 3-year-old yellow lab from Guiding Eyes. So it's been a busy couple of weeks for me.
How do they do aftercare if you're in Canada?
What do you mean aftercare?
Well, in the UK, if you have a guide dog, they visit you like once a year or something and check how you're getting on and go walk somewhere with you and stuff.
Okay. So yeah, the school at Guiding Eyes, I believe, is every 18 months to 2 years. They'll do generally a follow-up about 1 month after you arrive home. So they just have a bunch of field reps located across the US and Canada, and you're assigned to one of their field reps for the follow-up sessions. Otherwise, you're pretty much left to your own devices unless you need any kind of assistance. Then you can always get a hold of the school or directly in contact with your field rep to get stuff sorted out.
So they don't expect you to go back to New York every year or every 18 months or something?
Nope. You go back only for the training.
Welcome back, man. We miss you while you were gone, and I hope that you were able to listen to us while you were out there. And if not...
I had no time. Dude, I didn't even have time to play freaking Cards Against Humanity on a weekly basis. So,
I imagine that. It's intense. And now, moving on to the announcement segment. And while we do not necessarily have announcements today, Austin wants to talk about something called In the News. Austin, what we got?
So before we start the In the News segment, Warren and Fee were guests on some podcast. Do you want to talk about that? And then we had some data breaches from T-Mobile, and Twitter did a very annoying thing by closing the APIs for the third-party apps to use. So that completely breaks Twitter if you were using a third-party app for Twitter.
I was interviewed for a segment called Tech Talk on RNIB Connect Radio, and I believe it'll be on the week after next. So if you listen to that, then it would be, well, not this Tuesday, but the next one, I think. But it will then be available as a podcast after that. So when that comes out, when there's a link to the podcast, we can share it in the show notes. But for any listeners who do listen to RNIB Tech Talk anyway, then you might hear me.
I was on iBugToday.com. That's iBugToday.com. And they do have an Android segment called Android Insights. And this is a once a month meet that they get together, and people could ask questions about Android. And I think that for the next month's episode, I'll post their URL on both our email and Telegram groups so that folks who wants to go there and spend their evening would be able to do so. But it's once a month, and our friend Harshit Trivedi is the one that kind of hosts that program there for iBugToday.
So is it a sort of blindness technology type discussion?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they do all sorts of things. It's not necessarily all tech. They have like movie nights. They have other things like that. So different kinds of stuff that they talk about. But once a month, they have an Android segment.
I was really happy to talk on the RNIB Tech Talk because apparently they really don't do much about Android. I think they do quite a lot about iPhones. And I was very happy to recommend blind people trying Android and saying, you know, towards the end, don't dismiss Android because you hated it 10 years ago. You know, it's moved a lot since then. Things like that, and talking about various apps I like, and there's so much more I could have said, but I think it's only a half-hour thing. So if anyone thinks I missed anything out or anything when they hear it, sorry. But you know, in the time available, I did the best I could.
Thank you so much, Fee. And now talking about the other items that Austin mentioned. You mentioned the T-Mobile data breach, and frankly, I don't know what's going on, why someone is so bent or so intent on trying to destroy T-Mobile, wanting to get people's info. It's just beyond me. The news is that about 40 million people, their info, addresses, phone numbers, and everything else was kind of like just breached. It's just bad.
So was this a hacker who did this?
Exactly.
Yeah, we've
And
had things like that here before. Where there's a company called, well, there's still a company called TalkTalk, and there was a big data breach quite a long time ago now, but I think they've had more than one. I mean, maybe they're trying to sell the details to other businesses, probably. I mean, I think you can make quite a lot of money with that.
Yeah, and the sad thing about this is that, you know, it's not just like somebody got your password, change your password. You know, when they get your address, your phone number, and all that, that's not something you can just go
I mean, well, you can
online
change
and
your phone
change.
number, but you can't. Everyone can't just move house.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Exactly.
the problem is that this thing is like a recurring thing with T-Mobile. This is not their first rodeo. It seems like every other year or whatever, something happens like this with T-Mobile. And I'm beginning to wonder why this bad guy or these bad actors particularly think that T-Mobile is the place to hack.
Probably it's easier than some other ones, and so that's why.
I honestly think, though, some of it is because T-Mobile did buy some retired military cellular technologies. So they have some very solid network capacity. And if you can take T-Mobile down with that new tech that they're working with, then logically you can start working your way through like AT&T and Verizon. Also, T-Mobile does tend to have a lot more travel SIM cards for people to be using while they're traveling into the States. So you're able to actually potentially get your hands on a lot more people's information than you could dream of with, say, AT&T or Verizon.
Yeah, but both AT&T and Verizon have more customers than T-Mobile can ever shake a stick at.
They do, but when you look at the amount of people who are buying T-Mobile SIM cards for travel purposes, so like for an example, when I went stateside, I had a T-Mobile SIM card. So when you look at stuff like that, T-Mobile may be a lower player in the whole market when it comes to monthly subscribers. But when it comes to those vacationers, travelers, that kind of stuff, they may easily have a higher market share. which would make them a prime target, because then you're actually able to target more people on a wider scale, opposed to just keeping a local to the region and into the US. You can start targeting people who are outside the United States.
It's interesting though, because we used to have T-Mobile here, and then they merged. There was another network called Orange, and they're now a network called EE. So I don't know whether T-Mobile still has any stake in that, or whether, they don't. I really don't know. I've not looked into it, but it's definitely called EE now. So
we never had T-Mobile in Canada. We had years ago. We had AT&T, and then it turned into Rogers. So, and I mean, they're in the same kind of boat. Rogers has data breaches on a very regular basis, kind of similar to T-Mobile.
So these companies kind of seem to have, relationships with each other, and hence the reason once, you travel to another country, you may have some connectivity and all of that. But I'm surprised though, Cam, that coming from Canada, that you actually had to buy a SIM card within the States. Yours should have just worked here just fine, no?
Yeah, well, our carriers work stateside very well, but it's the cost. So an average carrier in Canada, when you go stateside, you're going to be paying $12 a day for roaming, or a minimum $60 for a 1 month US package.
I see. Because most of our carriers, you can go to Canada and you're on free roaming,
Exactly, where we don't have that privilege. Even though all of our carriers work on either T-Mobile or AT&T, we don't get that free roaming privilege. So we have astronomically high rates when we go stateside.
You just buy a pay-as-you-go SIM while you're there, do you? Is that how?
Oh, no. I actually bought the SIM card before I even left. It gives me, I was able to set up an American number out of New York State. I had unlimited North America calling, texting, something like 4 gigs of data. It was pretty awesome.
But it was a US SIM rather than a Canadian one.
Yeah.
But presumably that's pay as you go, because you don't want a contract for however long if you're only there for.
And these SIM cards actually expire. So I bought the card for a 1 month stint, 1 month. It expires after 1 month. You have 88 days to reload it. Otherwise, that SIM card is dead. They can't ever be reactivated. So I actually like the way that works. But it is a little sketchy when you're dealing with stuff like the data breaches. You really have to be careful about what you're putting in on that card.
Was that one of those eSIM ones, or was it an actual?
It was a physical SIM.
I sent you one, yeah.
Yeah. Sadly, my phone doesn't take eSIM.
Oh, that probably means mine doesn't either, because we have the same type of phone.
I don't believe any of the Fan Edition S20s have eSIM.
I don't think they're really in this country much anyway at the moment.
Talking about eSIM, so if you are in the QPR2, beta 2 of the Google QPR Android 13 on the Pixel, you now have the capability of having dual eSIM support, and that's going to be available when the final feature drop comes through in March. So something for people to look forward to.
That is fire.
Yeah. Now, moving along, though, let's talk about something that is probably of great importance too, and we're talking about Mr. Musk here and Twitter and all that denial to the Twitter API. So all those third-party apps are no longer available, no longer being able to take advantage of Twitter, being able to access that. What do you guys think about all of this? I think it all boils down to money, isn't it? You guys, what would you think would be the cause or the reasoning behind this reverse by Mr. Musk?
Yeah, I'm sure it has to do with money.
It's money. It's money.
I think this is even worse to me than when he fired the accessibility staff, because I mean, to be honest, I'm not saying they weren't doing anything, but Twitter was lacking in accessibility. So a lot of people, the reason they go to these third-party apps is because they're more accessible. So I think this is even a bigger blow to the blind community than actually laying off the accessibility staff.
But it's all part of the same thing in a way. You know, it's
Yeah.
a total lack of
Mhm.
care for certain Twitter users, really, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I also think too it more than just money. I think it really boils down to egocentrism. He wants he has the money to blow to buy Twitter, and he's got the mentality now that he's basically king in the world of Twitter. He's also now claiming that he's going to step back as CEO, but is he? He's already made all of these damaging moves. Is he really
Yeah.
going to do anything that's going to be beneficial?
I think he's just throwing a big fit because he said he was going to buy it and then he tried to back out and then they were like, no, we're going to sue you if you back out and then you'll have to pay X amount of dollars to not have Twitter. And he's like, all right, fine, then I'll just buy it. And now he's just throwing a big fit and trying to ruin it. I mean, I guess he's trying to make it profitable also, but I think it might be a little bit of both.
Wasn't there a thing also about that he was going to ban users who give links to other social networks? Did that ever happen? Has he done that? Does anybody know?
I don't know.
Like-
I think he
Like
reversed
if
from that.
you did a link to a Facebook page
Yes.
or a Facebook article, he was going to ban users who did things like that.
No, he reversed on that.
Did
He
he?
did. Yeah.
But he was going to do it, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was going to do it. And so when he's reversed on that, you think, well, maybe he might do it again in the future. Do you know what I mean? He's done so much damage now. I'm much less bothered about Twitter now than I was because it just isn't the place I mean, some Twitter stuff can be horrible anyway, like people being really angry and shouty, and that's not very nice. But it can do some real good as well. And I mean, we have a Twitter account, don't we, for the podcast?
We do.
And you know, sharing information, it's really, really good for things like that. Or, you know, sometimes I've seen events like musical events that are on Twitter and gone along to them because I read about it on Twitter, you know, and had a great evening. But Twitter is the native Twitter app is horrible. It never seems to show your tweets just in the order they came in, like a lot of the third-party apps. Then you get all these stupid tweets from people you don't care about and all this news stuff that you haven't followed. And it's just really annoying and I hate it.
Now, talking about him firing the disability department, does anyone know? And I do understand if you think that one department is not doing what they should and you replace them with a new crew. Does anyone know for sure that he simply closed it down or simply flushed out those that have been there, seeing them as not doing a good job and now replacing them with a new crew? Do we really know what is happening after the firing of those that were previously there in that department? I'm just kind of thinking that it would be odd that he will totally get rid of the accessibility department. I don't want to believe that that's what's going on.
Well, I've not heard anything about it being replaced. Does anyone else?
No,
I don't know what actually happened.
I've been watching just to see, just for my own curiosity, if there's like new job postings going up, stuff like that. And I'm not seeing any activity for an accessibility team. It's looking like it's completely just dead in the water.
So maybe we should reach out to Mr. Musk on Twitter. Is the accessibility department dead? Because I'm finding it difficult, guys, in this day of political correctness where we try to do things right for everybody, that actually Mr. Musk would actually totally, take down the disability department without replacing it with someone. It's hard to believe that such a thing would happen.
Not to me, it isn't. But
No?
then I'm a jaded cynic, so what do you expect? There are a lot of companies that talk about diversity and things, but if you drill down into it, a lot of it never includes ableism. They talk about race, they talk about gender, they talk about sexual orientation. They don't mention disability. Some do, and they're brilliant, and I'm happy that they do. But I know somebody who used to work for a big company, a very big company in this country anyway, which I won't name, but every single person in the UK who goes shopping would have heard of this company. And they had a diversity workshop and disability wasn't mentioned once.
So the thing is that we're not always, thought of. We're always an afterthought. Like I've always argued, no one goes to bed thinking about people with disabilities, and it's such a shame.
I don't think saying we're always an afterthought and no one does is fair. I think there are some wonderful people who do, but quite often we are an afterthought if we're thought of at all. And we have to say to these people, hey, we're here, why aren't you making this work for us? But I'm not going to bother making a big fuss about Twitter, because to be honest, I think far more productive thing to do would be to find a new social network, actually. And I'm glad we've got a group on Facebook now as well, which, I mean, Facebook has its things as well, I'm not saying it's perfect, but they do still at least have accessibility people, I think.
Yeah, but isn't it that you guys that use Facebook are saying it's horrible or something of that? And if we have a disability department there, what's their response to all this thing that I hear as to how horrible Facebook is?
I think sadly they've been spending more time to do with iPhones.
They really have.
Yeah, and it's like I feel like a lot of them aren't users of the phones, because and especially I don't think they're blind users, because like it seems like in the Facebook app for Android, like they're spending so much time on like putting tips in the labels, like double press and hold to do this, like that kind of stuff is what they're focusing on, when you can't even just scroll through your feed. Like you can't just swipe to the next thing. Like with the latest, or I don't know if it's still this way, but in December they released an update that basically broke auto scrolling when you're swiping through items. You have to actually scroll the page yourself, and it's like, how can you overlook something like that?
Actually,
it's like
though, that happens on the
spot.
iPhone as well, though, sometimes as well, because I do use both, because I think since I still have an iPhone, it's important to know what's going on in both if you can, but a lot of the Facebook experience is better on the iPhone, I'll have to say. But sometimes you open the app, and I'm sure this happens on Android as well, because I'm sure it's happened to me, and you open it and there's only like one post showing, and like you say, you have to scroll to get any more. But that's been a problem for quite a while, actually, I think.
But now it's like not sometimes, it's every time. Like it will not scroll ever. And
that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, though that's quite annoying. But yeah, Twitter stopping you using these third-party apps, I'm very cross about that.
We are now turning our attention to our Android Basics segment, and we continue with looking at the system settings. And as mentioned at the beginning of the show, we're now looking at the digital well-being segment. First of all, though, I want to preview this with a little preamble of this segment, and I pre-recorded a little segment on this, and so we're now putting that in, and then we'll talk about it. Here is that preamble. I am now in the system settings and will now navigate my way to the digital well-being. Here's what I'm talking about.
Digital well-being and parental controls, screen time, app timers, bedtime schedules.
I will go ahead and tap here to activate.
Digital well-being. Digital well-being and parental controls, out of list. Showing items 1 to 10 of 20.
We are now on the screen with all the items found within the digital well-being. Near the top, we've got a couple buttons. On the top right corner, we've got more options. And to the left of that, we have beta. Here's what I'm talking about.
More options, button.
More options. And to the left of that,
Beta, button.
beta button. If I tap on that beta button,
You're in the beta program. Experimental features are available to beta testers only.
and that's all that there is on this page. And there's a learn more to the right of that and a close to the right of the learn more. Here's what I'm talking about.
Learn more, button.
And
Close, button.
close button. I'll tap here to close.
Digital well-being. Beta, button.
And now to the right of that, like I said earlier, is the more options. And I'll move my finger right.
More options, button.
We got more options. I tap.
Pop-up window. Send feedback, in list.
And tapping on that, we have the following. The first item is send feedback. Below that, we've got
Beta program.
beta program. So if you're not in the beta, you tap here, it will take you to the beta store, or rather the Play Store, where you could choose to opt in, or if you're already enrolled in the beta and you want to opt out, there's the opt out or leave beta at the bottom of it. If you're not in the beta, however, there'll be the join beta. Below that, we've got
Manage your data.
manage your data. Next,
Privacy policy.
privacy policy and
Terms of service.
terms of settings or service. And the last item below that will be the open licenses,
Open source licenses.
open source licenses. That's the last item in that more options. I will now go back to the previous screen so we could see the other items that are found here on the main UI of this digital well-being.
Digital well-being. More options, button, out of list.
We're back to the main UI and we hear more options. Moving my finger down,
Your digital well-being tools, in list.
and this is a header or heading that says your digital tools. And below that we've got,
Phone used for 2 hours, 21 minutes today.
we heard phone used for 2 hours, 21 minutes today, meaning that if you put it all together in one stretch, I would have used my phone for 2 hours, 21 minutes for today. If I move my finger down, we'll interact with the dashboard.
Go to dashboard.
Go to dashboard. Tapping on that though is going to show me the apps that I spend most of my time on that accumulated to the 2 hour, 21 minutes use. Below that we've got,
37, unlocks.
it says I have 37 unlocks. In other words, throughout today, I have unlocked my phone 37 times. Wow, no wonder it's called digital well-being. I'm recording this though at like 10 o'clock in the night, and so for the whole day, I have unlocked this phone 37 times. Let's keep going. Next,
93, notifications.
I had a total of 93 notifications for today, and below that,
Ways to disconnect, heading.
we now engage a heading that says ways to disconnect. In other words, ways that we could stay offline or leave the phone alone and disconnect from the connected world. Let's now go through and see the items that we have here. The first item that we have here below that ways to disconnect heading will be
Dashboard, no timer set.
dashboard, no timer set. In other words, if I tap here, it will show me the apps and I could set times for them. Hey, I only want to use it for so minutes. And after that, you can lock me out from that app. That's what that is. And tapping here will show you all the apps that you can choose to set a time limit for. Below that, we've got
Bedtime mode, tap to set up.
bedtime mode, tap to set up. If you tap on this, it will take you to where you can either customize or accept the defaults, which begins at 11 o'clock. I'll tap here so you'll see what I'm talking about.
Bedtime mode. Sleep better with bedtime mode, out of list.
There we heard it, sleep better with bedtime mode.
Silence your phone, dim the wallpaper, and change the screen to black and white at bedtime.
And down toward the middle, about 3 inches on the right side, we have a toggle switch there, which is on by default.
Do not disturb for bedtime mode. Only calls from starred contacts, repeat callers, and alarms can reach you. Switch on.
And that is on because I have previously customized a bedtime mode. Mine starts at 10 o'clock. And below that,
Customize your do not disturb profile.
you can now tap here to customize. If you are someone that goes to bed early, you could tap here to customize and choose to start your bedtime mode early. If you go to bed at 9 o'clock, you can choose to have it start at 9 o'clock instead of the default, which is 11 o'clock. If you do not tap here to choose that, then at the bottom right is the next button. And to the left of that will be the cancel button. Here's what I'm talking about.
Next button.
And to the left of that,
Cancel button.
cancel button. Let's go ahead and tap on that next.
Next button. Set up bedtime mode.
We heard set up bedtime mode. Putting my finger near the top of the screen, we hear the following.
Set up bedtime mode.
We heard set up bedtime mode. And below that, we have a couple buttons, one to the left and one to the right. The one at the left edge of the phone is your
Start 11 p.m.
start time. Like I said, that's a default 11 p.m. And to the right of that is the ending time,
End 7 a.m.
7 a.m. Moving my finger down, though, we got the following.
8 hours.
That's 8 hours of sleep. Move my finger down.
Sunday. Checkbox checked.
And we have those days that are checked. We've got Sunday because that means the following day is going to be Monday. So you want to go to bed early so you can wake up and go to work. And so all those days are checked from Sunday,
Monday. Checkbox checked.
Tuesday,
Checkbox checked.
Wednesday,
Wednesday. Checkbox checked.
Thursday,
Thursday. Checkbox checked.
Friday,
Friday. Checkbox checked.
and Saturday, another party day.
Saturday. Checkbox checked.
Now, if you don't work on Saturdays, you may want to uncheck Friday because it's a party time, right? Now, below we got,
Use a schedule. Turns on at 11 p.m. checked.
and below that we have,
Turn on while charging. Turns on while charging after 9 p.m. not checked.
so in other words, if you want it to start at 9 p.m., if you put your phone on the charger at 9 p.m., you could check this box and that will start the do not disturb. If not, it will kick in at 11 p.m. or at the customized time that you have chosen. Like mine, I chose 10 o'clock. At the bottom left, we got
Not now button.
not now, or to the right of that,
Done button.
we have the done button. If I tap done, then I am accepting the default that my bedtime mode will start at 11 o'clock. I'm not doing that, and I'm going to go back by doing the back gesture.
Sleep better with bedtime mode.
Back again,
Digital well-being. Bedtime mode. Tap to set up in list.
I'm back to the UI, menu UI, and there is the bedtime mode. Tap to set up. Moving though, below that we've got the following.
Focus mode. Tap to set up.
Focus mode. Tap to set up. And what this means is that if you are at work and you want to be focused, you want to set it up to where, say, hey, from X time to X time, I want to be focused. So I don't want Telegram or whatever apps to disrupt me while I'm at work. And if you tap here, it will show you the apps that you could check to say, hey, I'm going to be focused. Here's what I'm talking about.
Focus mode. Navigate up button.
We hear focus mode navigate up, and that's the button on the top left corner. On the top right corner, we have the more options.
More options button.
And frankly, there's nothing in there. If you tap on that, then there's something like send feedback or something like that. Now, below that, we have
When you need time to focus, you can pause distracting apps and hide their notifications in list.
Okay?
Set a schedule, disabled.
We here set a schedule is disabled. Next.
To use focus mode, select distracting apps below, button, disabled.
It's also disabled because I haven't checked any of the apps here. I'm going to scroll down. Now we have a heading that says
Select distracting apps, heading.
Select distracting apps. And below that are all your apps. For example,
Messages, checkbox, not checked.
Messages is not checked.
Fairmail, checkbox, not checked.
Fairmail, not checked.
Gmail, checkbox, not checked.
Gmail, not checked.
Keep notes, checkbox, not checked.
And on and on and on. And at the bottom, you have a button that says show all X number of apps. That is, in my case, it will say like show all 300 apps or 300 plus whatever apps. And you can choose the ones that you want to not get distracted by. Let's go back to the previous screen.
Digital well-being, focus mode, tap to set up, in list. Showing items 1 to 15 of 35.
Below that now we have a heading that says
Reduce interruptions, heading.
Reduce interruptions, heading. And now let's look below that. These are the items that we find below that reduced disruptions.
Manage notifications.
Manage notifications. That is, if you tap here, you could go choose what notifications you would like to see and which ones you wouldn't like to see. Below that, we've got
Do not disturb.
We have that do not disturb again, and you can go in here and customize it. Next,
Flip to shish, on.
we have the flip to shish, and that is on. So for instance, if my phone rings and I flip it, it should just silence it. Next,
Heads up, tap to set up.
we have something here called heads up. Tap to set up. In other words, if you tap on here, it will take you to where you would be told to be aware of your surroundings when you're walking outside. Let's go ahead and open this app so you see what I'm talking about.
Heads up. Watch your step with heads up, out of list.
We heard watch your steps with heads up.
If you're walking while using your phone, get a reminder to focus on what's around you. Use with caution. Heads up doesn't replace paying attention.
And at the bottom right, we have the next button.
Next, button.
Tap.
Heads up needs to send you notifications and know when you're walking outside.
And moving my finger down.
Physical activity. This lets heads up know when you're walking. Checkbox, checked, disabled.
Below that,
Notifications. This lets heads up send you notifications when you're walking. Checkbox, checked, disabled.
below that,
Location optional. This lets heads up know when you're outdoors. On the next two screens, select while using the app greater than allow all the time. Checkbox, not checked.
So in other words, if I check this box and I tap the next, then it'll ask me how I want my location to be observed. I want it precise, which is the default, but do I want it all of the time or only when I'm using the app? And at the bottom,
Next, button.
we have the next button. I'm not going to continue with this because it's self-explanatory and you can go in here and see what that is because that will be the last part and you'll just tap on the done button. I'm going to go back now to the main UI where we came from.
Watch your step with heads up.
Back again.
Digital well-being. Heads up, tap to set up, in list.
And we're back to the main UI and on heads up. Next item below that though, we've got
Show icon in the app list, switch, off.
show the icon in the apps list. It's not checked.
Parental controls. You set up family link parental controls for one child or teen in your family group.
We come across one item here that says parental control, and it says that I do have one child or teen in my parental control. And below that will tell you the name of the kid, and at the bottom of that will be add a child.
Set up parental controls for another child, button.
Set up parental control for another child. And that's the end of that whole idea of the digital well-being. I will now hand you over to the podcast crew as we reflect on these items and talk about them. And now that we've done with it, let's talk about this segment, guys. So the first item here is about the phone use. And then there's an item below that says the dashboard, where it tells you, hey, you've used your phone for X minutes today. And then the dashboard, when you tap on that, gives you like a chart of how many minutes you spend on this app and how many minutes you spend on this other app. What do you guys think about this feature? Does it make you feel like you kind of been using your phone too much or not using your phone enough? Mine, as you can hear, I had 2 hours, 21 minutes or something like that on that phone for the total day by the time I did that recording.
Yeah, my average was like 350, 3 hours and 50 minutes, which I was honestly, I thought it would be a lot higher than that because I use my phone for everything. Like I barely use my computer, So I was pretty surprised that it was that low. But yeah, it's an interesting feature. Honestly, I've never taken advantage of it as far as like going in there and setting like, which is a good thing. If you feel like you spend too much time on a certain app or a certain category, like you can say, only let me use social media apps for X number of minutes a day, or only let me use shopping apps for this number of minutes a day. You can kind of limit yourself, but I've always kind of seen it as like, you're still at the end of the day when it says, you've reached your limit, if you want to keep going, you're going to disable it and keep going. So I've never really like gone into the trouble of like setting it up or anything, but it's one of the things you accept when you set up your phone, or I guess everybody doesn't accept it, but I do. So it's up and running and it keeps track of everything. So I can go in and look and get insights if I want, which is good.
I suppose it might be useful if you wanted to know what used your battery most, but presumably that would be in the battery section anyway, wouldn't it? So I don't know. For me, it's like having a really annoying parental kind of figure in your pocket. I just, I would never set timers for myself or anything like that. I'm a
Yeah.
grown up. I don't need that. You know?
Some people do like try to cut back on certain things though, and it's nice to have that reminder. Like maybe you don't realize, maybe you're like, I think 2 hours a day is too much on social media, and you don't realize that you've been on there that long, and then you kind of want that reminder. Okay, maybe I should do something else with my life. So, but yeah, at the end of the day,
Really
you're a grown
though,
up.
when
You
you're an
make your own
adult,
decisions.
maybe
Yeah.
maybe if you've got kids, maybe then okay, but otherwise, I don't know. It's a bit Big Brothery, isn't it?
Yeah, like I I kind of sit in the same place as John. I thought I use my phone more than I do, which is surprising. So I'm sitting like just under 5 hours. But I'm also kind of like feeling like, why would I want to set those timers? Like it almost feels like I'm being creeped on, but
Yeah.
yet at the same time, not. Like it's a really weird concept, but it's also like I also get why they have it, because some people need that extra control. Um, because we all know that our phones emit the blue light, which is scientifically proven to boost our dopamine levels. So looking at that, it's easier to become addicted. And having stuff like the digital well-being, we can actually help control that. So I kind of understand the purpose, but I just find it kind of stupid.
Yeah, it's just another thing to track. People like tracking fitness, tracking sleep. Some people say, I know if I slept well, why do I need to track that? But other
Yeah, I mean,
people want that data. So it just depends on the person.
I think tracking something like your sleep, that's one thing, but timers saying, "Oh, you've done enough on the social net." No, stop it. It's like someone constantly looking over your shoulder, when you're in the
The,
middle of oh man, micromanagement.
the funny thing is you can do like certain settings to like gently like nudge you away from it. Like you can set it to like, if I've gone over my limit, like make the screen black and white. Obviously this doesn't apply to us, but like like a person's gonna be looking through Instagram and, oh man, it just went black and white. I can't do this anymore. I better put it away for the night. It's funny.
Yeah, so
That's
here's how I
hard.
look at it, though. It's not necessarily because they want to track you, but some people really have an addiction with the phone. I see it all the time. And so I think the whole idea is to kind of, hey, maybe you need to do something else. So maybe the little time they have, even people at work, you jump on that phone, blah, blah, blah. And frankly, I think I would rather uh, have something about my digital well-being. For example, I don't think I want my sleep to be tracked, to be honest with you. If I'm going to have a problem with something, I think that the last one I would want to use would be a sleep tracker. I don't want you to know how I sleep, what happens when I'm sleeping. It just doesn't appeal to me. But I can see, um, saying, "Hey, I don't want to use my Telegram for more than 1 hour today or whatever." And to me, I don't think that is an intrusion on how I use my Telegram. It's just that thing doesn't go to anyone really, but it's just between you. Kind of try to time management.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
all on
mind having,
device.
but the sleep thing I find is quite interesting, because it'll tell you. Well, I've got the Samsung version, and that's slightly different, but it tells you the quality of your sleep and things. And I don't think that's in the well-being section, is it? I think there's just a sleep mode to um stop your phone
Yeah.
going off in the middle of the night and things like that.
Yeah, this
isn't it?
doesn't track your sleep. This just lets you set your sleep mode settings.
Yeah, I mean that I think sensible. I don't really want people ringing me up at midnight. So,
So the next item here is the
7. Unlocks.
unlocks, and
Yeah.
in my recording, I had unlocked my phone 37 times through the whole day. And the reason why is because for me, when I read articles, I shut off the screen. So
Oh, that's your
a lot
excuse.
of
Okay, I
those.
got it.
But I looked at
You,
that, I'm like,
you,
oh my
you know
gosh, 37 unlocks.
you know what my excuse is? I do it as a fidget thing. Like I'll put my fingerprint on the screen, let it unlock, lock it. Put my fingerprint. Like I'll just lock and unlock
really?
my phone over and over again. Yeah, I do.
I would
Why?
like to
So my
hear how many
numbers are
unlocks you
way
got.
off. What?
I would like to know how many unlocks you got on your phone.
Well, not too many today because I was outside working. But if it was a regular day, I would have unlocked that thing so
Yeah,
many
it's
times.
probably not a good idea to do that when you're on the roof.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
That-
No.
So I've got 7 unlocks today. So on my way to 37.
No, I think it'll be 50 today.
I don't know. I'll be busy editing the podcast. So I'm not going to have more than 10 unlocks today, or who knows. But
Oh,
yeah,
I think at least 20.
yeah, so that's another one. And for me, though, that comes with when I'm doing those reading articles because I like to use the assistant and I don't need the screen on. I shut off my screen when I do.
So assistants read you. The assistant reads you the articles, does it?
It
And
does.
and you can
Yeah.
lock the. I didn't know you could do that.
Shut off the screen and just, sit back and listen. And the next item here is the
24. Notifications.
the notifications. You heard mine that I had 93 notifications and all of that. And so below that, you can just go ahead and
Ways to disconnect.
go to that. Ways to disconnect is the next item here. And this is the thing that we were talking about. For example,
Dashboard. No timer set.
that timer that we were talking about, you can set timers for, hey, I want to just only use Telegram for 1 hour today, or I want to use Facebook for 30 minutes today, for those of you that do. And, it's like John says, when it comes up and say that time is up, you can still extend your time if you wanted to, if you think you haven't had enough of your fill for that day. Maybe you need it more than what you anticipated that you are going to be bounding yourself to, then you could just increase that time. I have that for my kids, especially, the teenage kids can be on that thing forever. So I set things like, hey, maybe only 2 hours a day That's good enough, because you don't want too much. You're spending way too much time, especially during the school week. It can be detrimental.
Yeah. The good thing about the parental controls is you can't snooze them. When your time is up, your time is up.
So it'll just stop working, will it?
Yeah,
Because I've never tried.
nothing would
So
work.
what happens if you try and use Telegram again, for example? If it's on Telegram, what happens?
No, so we're talking about it with this one of the time, setting times. You could change the time, but the one that John is mentioning is the one we're going to be coming down to. That's the parental control. So that one is a little different, unless you go in there and say, okay, I'm going to give you a little reward, and here I'm giving you 30 minutes more, or I'm giving you an hour more. You've been a good kid today, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But other than that, their phone becomes just a paperweight. So next,
does it even show that? Does it even show the time or anything? And that,
but
that's
does.
it.
Yeah,
and that's about it.
It shows everything that's going on. Yeah.
No, I mean, once their time's up, does it just show them the time and nothing else or something? Is that?
No, it will warn them, letting them know that in X minutes your time is going to be up.
Yeah, but when it is, if they try and use it, what happens?
Nothing will happen.
I think you just won't be able to launch apps.
You won't be able to launch that app. Yeah.
For a pin or something.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. So that's what. Okay, I've never done that. Just in case anyone cares, so far today, I've done 8 unlocks. Which is one more than yesterday.
You're one more than me.
And it's a lot later in the day. That's what I did 7 yesterday.
That's not bad.
I don't really know why I would actually care about that, but still.
How many times you handle the phone, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, this is one of 3 phones I've got. So if I looked at all of them, no, I'm not. That's too scary. I'm not doing that.
The next item that we have here is that bedtime mode.
Bedtime mode. Tap to set up.
And so you could, by default, if you set this up and leave the defaults as I showed in the demonstration, it begins at 11 o'clock. But for me, though, I had mine set to 10 o'clock because sometimes I don't want to be bothering people I have a lot of calls. And so I set mine to kick in at 10 o'clock. How do you guys have bedtime mode, when it kicks in?
Yeah.
10 o'clock. But I wish it would make me some hot chocolate. That would be good.
Hot chocolate.
Right. Like if my phone could make me some tea or some hot chocolate at bedtime, I'd be pumped.
Yeah, and then make coffee
in the morning.
Exactly.
Morning coffee, coffee in the morning. Yeah. That'd be amazing.
It would be.
But no, it's other than that, it's quite good. It's quite good, that feature, because you don't get all these annoying calls in the middle of the night and stuff.
Yeah, and I like that you can specify like certain contacts to always let through, even if you're on bedtime mode, or you can set whether or not it lets repeat callers through. Like if somebody calls you like 3 times in a row, it'll start to ring. Yeah, so those are good features that you can turn on and off as well.
They are, especially the both of those actually. But for example, if you know a family member's not well or something, and you need to be able, the hospital or the care home or their relatives need to be able to ring you even in the middle of the night, then that's really important.
So the next item here is that
focus mode. Tap to set up.
That focus mode, and so I see this coming into play, most especially if you're at work. You want to give whoever is employing you their full time, right? You don't want to be checking your phone and doing all of that. And some people do that and get in trouble, because here you can set, hey, from 9 a.m. till whatever, I'm in focus mode. And so you turn things off and things like that. Say, hey, I want to turn Telegram off. I don't want to get distracted by Telegram. I want to turn off Facebook. I don't want to be distracted by that. And so I see that focus mode as a good thing, because it kind of takes your mind off all those distractions. What do you guys think about the focus mode?
I think it's good for things like church as well. Or I guess if you had to go and do some studying or something like that, or even just I think there's a relax mode on mine anyway. You know, you might want to be left in peace while you're reading a book, for example. I think it's a great thing. I think it's really good.
I agree. And most especially, when I go to church, what I do with mine is I turn it off or I leave the damn phone in the car. That's what I do.
Yeah, I'm so paranoid. Even if it's on Do Not Disturb, my screen's gonna light up. My screen reader's gonna start yelling or something. Like I'm just turn it completely off.
Exactly.
I sometimes use it to get hymn numbers and things, on my Braille display. Though, so yeah, I sometimes have it in there, but I make sure it's quiet volume or the speech is muted. Can I ask a question actually about the focus mode? Because I tend to do this in Bixby routines because it was just easier when I was doing it, frankly. So I know how to do it. So my church is far enough away that I can not have it. Like, if my church was next door to where I live and I set it to go on silent when I go into church, it'd be really annoying because it'd be silent in my home as well. But my church is far enough away that doesn't happen. So I can set it when I'm in a particular location to go on silent or do not disturb or whatever. Does this well-being thing let you do that via location as well? Because when I tried to do it a year or two ago, you lot told me I could do it, but I couldn't for the life of me work it out, so I just did it in Bixby instead.
So the focus mode is not the same. What you're talking about is a routine. The focus
Okay.
mode is something different. For instance, I set it per app. For example, I'm at work. I don't want to be bothered by anything coming from Telegram or Facebook or any notifications from YouTube. Hey, you got these new uploads that's there and things like that. So I want to be focused on what I'm doing. So that's a different thing. That will be routines that you're talking
But how does
about.
it know you're at work though? If you're not using your location as a clue, is it done by
No,
times?
it's based on the time, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. That's my work time. I don't want Telegram telling me, John, send a message to Blind Android Users podcast or, Blind Android Users chat group and things like that.
I'd have to unblock you in order
Yeah,
for you to get a message from me.
he blocks me. I need to block him up in retaliation. He put my name out there, blocking me in the whole world for people to know that I got blocked.
Yeah, that's very funny.
That was priceless. But so that's different because you can choose the time that you want to be focused and all of that. And so it comes in handy in that perspective.
You said you can do it by app. So if I want to read a book, I open Kindle or Audible. And if I've opened Audible or Kindle, then I don't want any other like YouTube and stuff. Would that work as well? Would that, or is that again a separate thing? Is that a routine as well?
Setup.
Or is that
So
a focus thing?
here's what I'm talking about. So if I go into
Focus mode, tap to set up.
focus mode here,
Focus mode.
and if I scroll down, I have apps.
Boss Rev, check box.
See,
Home, check box, not check.
that's my Google Home.
YouTube, check box.
So if I
check.
check YouTube,
Fair
Yeah.
mail, check box, not check.
and so
Showing items 11.
that means that I want to set some time limit or have a focus mode because I don't want YouTube to come in and disturb me while I'm focusing on what I'm doing. So once I do that,
you're blocking the app while you're in the focus
Yes,
mode rather than
exactly.
saying when I open this app, do this.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's the other way around. Okay.
But
exactly.
you could set, I know what you were asking, and that you could technically set a routine to turn on focus mode. So when I'm in Amazon, I don't want to hear from, or when I'm in Kindle, I don't want to hear from Telegram and Facebook. So you should set a routine to turn on. I know you can with Bixby,
A
but I
work
don't know.
mode or a relax mode
Focus.
or
Yeah, exactly.
So you could kind of use the two
Together,
routines and the focus mode together, complementary of each other. Yeah, that's
Exactly.
probably what I
And
would
so
do. But the bedtime one's really good.
once you've selected an app and you come back, now I'm back to this screen, then you have
Focus mode off.
it says it's off. So if I tap here to turn it on, that YouTube that I checked on there would now take effect and will take me to where I could choose the time when does this begin, when I don't want YouTube to be bothering me.
Okay.
Yeah. So next we got the
Reduce interruptions heading.
reduce interruptions, and these are things like, hey, I'm getting so many notifications from XYZ. I want to reduce those.
Manage notifications.
And here's where you go in to manage those notifications and things like that. And I think the next item that we're going to look at before we move on next,
Do not disturb.
we have the do not disturb that we've talked about.
Flip to shish on.
And you got, flip to shish. Like if I'm doing something and John is calling me, I'll just flip that phone over and say, John, shish.
Shush, John, you blocked me on Telegram. Yeah.
If you want to talk to me, send me a message on Telegram.
I need to get back at him somehow, right?
Yeah.
So the interruptions thing is that, for example, you could say, I don't want interruptions from Facebook or something. Isn't that similar to what you were talking about with YouTube and stuff before?
I feel like it might be like, I haven't actually done it myself, but I think it might be like limit the amount of notifications. Like, don't give me a notification from this app, but maybe once an hour or something. That's my guess.
Exactly. Well, that's how it works. Or I don't even want to hear any notifications from it. And so you manage that, maybe only give me 2 a day or whatever, things like that.
Because it said limit interruptions.
Yeah.
So
you would just get all your
you
Facebook
get
notifications at once. Yeah.
Yeah, you get some, but not too many. Yeah, that's
Exactly.
quite good.
Because I had 93, so I could go in there and say, hey, I only want 5 notifications. All right.
Wait, what gave you 93 notifications?
Different apps.
Was it the amount of people who had blocked you on Telegram?
No. It's not just Telegram.
I know you don't get
different
notified
apps
of that.
that I know. So I got all those notifications, and oh, doggone, 93 notifications a day. That's a lot of notifications.
Yeah, that's crazy.
The next item here is the
heads up. Tap to set up.
The heads up, and particularly, for sighted people, because you find a lot of people, will be walking down the street and looking at their phone. I find it to be annoying, if you know what I mean.
Because they bump right into you, don't they?
Exactly. Why I put this thing in the pocket? So see, this is why digital well-being needs to be in place, because you can't put that thing down.
Either put it in your pocket or slow down. Don't walk so fast while you're looking at it. Because if you're looking at a map or something, but I think for me, if I was going to do that, I think I'd probably stop or stand to the side. But some people are very silly.
So I fall in that silly category. I totally use my phone while I'm walking all the time.
Oh no, Cam! Don't tell me you do.
I do.
What for maps?
I think blind people get a pass on that because we can't see anyway.
Like, exactly. That is true.
I'm just better at multitasking. Like most people are using their phone and they just zone right out into that.
Yeah.
Like I've seen people get hit by cars reading a book while they're walking down the street.
Yeah, why do that?
But
why
it's like
do that?
I'm sitting there going, is it really hard to pay attention with like where you're going and what you're doing at the same time? And it's like, it's not that hard to do. But so many people can't do it.
Yeah, so see, for me, when I'm on the street, my phone is in my pocket. You don't see me interacting with my phone while I'm walking around.
I might. My phone is in my pocket, but I might be using something like Lazarillo.
Yeah, well, so you're using a guidance navigation in that aspect, though, but you're not interacting with your phone and looking at who's sending you messages. I don't do that while I'm walking.
Might not have done that, but I don't like if it's busy and crowded and there's loads of people, or if I'm walking along a railway platform or something, then no, because that's dangerous.
Exactly my point. The last item here before we move on will be that parental
Parental controls. You set up family link parental controls for one child or teen in your family group.
So that's the one. I have one kid that's on that parental control. So at 10 o'clock, phone is dead because, teenagers like to be texting at night and can't sleep, and in the mornings all tired and all of that. So those are the kind of things that we've talked about earlier. And especially you could limit their phone use, maybe 6 hours a day or whatever. Instagram can only be used for 2 hours or 1 hour or 30 minutes or whatever time you want, and things like that. And if you have multiple kids, you can, at the bottom here,
Set up parental controls for another child button.
You could tap there to set up another parental control for another kid. And that's what those parental controls are.
So do they let you, obviously you wouldn't want to have it on the podcast, but do they let you give the child's actual name in the app so that you don't get confused with whose you're changing if they're different ages, for example?
Yes, it has
They
my
do.
kids'
It does
names
that.
in there, yeah,
Yeah.
and you can manage those kids. You can extend their time, for example, bedtime mode. Like, for example, I set it up to Sunday nights through. You can choose different days, how long you want them to be on there, and then Friday nights there's no restrictions. Saturday, no restriction, and so you set whatever you want, or set this day I want you to go to bed at so and so a time and things like that. But usually you just kind of keep a nice routine, so it's not a surprise. Sometimes I forgot that like we just had a Martin Luther King Day last Monday, and my daughter had to remind me, hey, this Sunday, I need to be off this because there's no school Monday. I'm like, oh yeah. So in that case, I took it off for that day, and then come back next week.
Is there a holiday mode as well? Like if they're on school holidays where you can give them a bit more freedom and then have the routines back again when they're back at school, or do they not have that?
No, so you have to, like I just said,
Or do you just turn it off for those days?
Exactly. But you are correct. It would be nice to have a feature that it will auto detect. But yet, it depends on the parent, because then you are overruling what the parent wants. Supposing that parent still wants
No,
their
but the
kid to go to
parent could
bed.
say, I mean, on my heating at home, there is a mode called holiday that I can turn on. If I'm away, then I don't need the heating on. So you could have a mode that the parent could turn on called holiday, where they're basically unrestricted if you wanted. That's all I was wondering, if they did that, because that'd be quite. But yeah, I still think it should be up to the parent, not because
Exactly.
probably different counties and different states and things all have different holidays anyway. So I don't think you could do that. I think you'd have to leave it up to the parent. Because even in this country, we've got 2 counties next door to each other. And I know her one child goes to school in the one county and the other one in the next door county. And they've got holidays in February. One's off one week and the other one's off the next week. So you couldn't have, you'd have to have it so the parent could change it, not. But a holiday mode would be good. You could turn off the restrictions if it's holiday mode, if you wanted, or you could say when it's holiday mode, only have these dates or this thing, or that would be quite a nice feature for Google to do, I think. But for your parental mode, you have to connect to their phone, presumably somehow, or their account. How does that work?
So you add them to your account. So it's like what we call a family link. That's the app. And also, you can share your apps with them if you wanted to. So they get to enjoy your paid apps if you wanted them to, and things like that. But it also lets you know what kind of apps that they're installing. If they're not apps that you don't approve of, then you can say, no, kick that baby out, so things like that.
And can you see what websites they go on and stuff if you want to as well?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, so the whole idea is to keep your kids safe, because kids are very gullible. People tell them things and they want to try this, and it's just a nightmare.
And can you choose which of your apps you want them to, like, can you say, okay, I want to share this app, but not that one? Like, for example, if you did, I know you don't, but if you did gambling, you wouldn't want your kids to.
No, yeah. You can choose what apps you want to share and which apps you don't want to share. And that's a good
That's
thing.
good.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
good
because
thing.
I just wondered, because I don't have children, so I don't know, I've just got my own phone. I'm not linked. Mine isn't linked to anybody else, so it's interesting.
Yeah, and you can have it turned on so that it has to confirm every app they download. So like they can't go and download any app without it first sending you a notification saying, "Are you okay with them downloading this app?"
And you
That's
can
good.
say yes, and then they'll be able to install it. And so they wouldn't be able to do things like side loading and things like that. So it's a very good feature.
Yeah, sounds it.
Yeah. We are now moving on to our next segment. And John, you are talking today in our Talkback highlights about the new spell checker that we have in Talkback 13.1. Here is that demonstration by John regarding the spell checker in Talkback.
Welcome back to our series on Talkback highlights. Today is going to be installment number 52, and we are going to be covering the new spell check feature, which is found in the current release of Talkback, which is 13.1. So I'm here in my Google Messages app, and I've already typed out a message using the on-screen Braille keyboard, but I backed out of it and went back to Gboard just so I could be back in the conversation. So I'm going to put the edit box in focus.
Editing. THSI is a tessie of Hello the Spellcheck Fader Works, edit box.
So what I typed out was, this is a test of how the spell check feature works. And of course I misspelled some words intentionally. So I'm just going to show you how to go about using this feature. So when you put a text box in focus, by default, the granularity or reading control is going to be set to characters. And what we're going to want to go to is spell check. So I'm going to swipe up then down twice to go back to reading controls.
Actions. Spell check.
So now that I'm on the spell check granularity, what I'm going to do is swipe up a few times, because right now I'm at the end of the field. So every time I swipe up, it's going to go back one misspelled word.
Fader. Spell check. Hello. Tessie. THSI. No misspelled word is found.
So as soon as it says no misspelled word is found, that means you're either at the beginning of the field or the end of the field. Or I should say, there's no misspelling before that current word you're on. So the way this works is, you can think of this as a granularity. So in the same way you would move by characters, words, or lines, and that would move your cursor forward or backwards one word, this moves your cursor backward or forward one misspelling. So this will place your cursor at the beginning of either the previous or next misspelled word. So right now the cursor should be at the beginning of the word this, which I spelled THSI. So I'm going to swipe down.
Tessie.
That went to the next word, so I'm going to swipe back up.
THSI.
So once you have the cursor on the word, how you would go about correcting it is you would change your reading control from spell check, which we're on right now, to actions, because the corrections will be in the actions menu. So I'm going to swipe down then up to go to the next reading control.
Actions.
And now that I'm on actions, if I swipe down, it'll start to list the suggestions.
This, THIS, spelling suggestion.
And that I know I want, but I'm just going to see what else it's suggesting.
Thai, THAI, spelling these, THESE, spelling suggestion.
So it will suggest a few, but I know I wanted to say this, so I'm going to swipe up.
Thai, THAI, spelling suggestion. This, THIS, spelling suggestion.
And I'm going to double tap there.
Text replaced.
So that replaced THSI with THIS. So now I'm going to change the reading control back to spell check.
Spell check.
And I'm going to swipe down to go to the next misspelled word.
Tessie.
So I wanted to spell test, but I put a Y at the end instead of a T. That's not a common mistake you would make typing on the Braille input, but I know you would make that mistake if you're typing on a QWERTY keyboard, so I just did that intentionally. But I'm going to switch back to actions.
Actions.
And swipe down.
Test, TEST, spelling suggestion.
That's what I want.
Text replaced.
So I'm going to, again, go back to
spell check.
And go to the next word.
Hello.
Now, I think this is how. It's supposed to be how, but I put 2 O's in there. So let's see what the suggestions are.
Actions. How, HOW, spelling suggestion. Text replaced.
Again, I'm going to go back to spell check.
Spell check. Spell check.
Now, I spelled this with only 1 L instead of 2 L's. So I'm going to go back to actions.
Actions. Spell check, SPELLCHECK, spelling suggestion. Text replaced.
Now I have one more word in here, but I'm not going to go back to spell check because I want to show you that you don't have to use that granularity or reading control if you don't want to. So if you're just navigating by character or word, which I'm going to do here.
Characters. Words. Fader.
So fader, which was me spelling feature, but I got the E and the A mixed up. So I've moved the cursor to this word. So as long as I bring up the actions menu or go to the actions reading control from here, there will be spelling suggestions. And the reason I say that is because it's not necessary for you to use the spell check reading control. That just helps you find and put your cursor on the misspelled words quickly. So if you already know you've misspelled a word because you just typed it, you don't have to go to that reading control. You could just simply make sure your cursor is on the misspelled word and change to actions.
Characters. Actions.
And then
Feature, FEATURE, spelling suggestion.
that's what I want. So I'm going to double tap there.
Text replaced.
So let's see what we have now.
Editing. This is a test of how the spell check feature works. Edit box.
So as you can see, all of the corrections have been made, and that is the sentence that I was trying to type. Thank you for listening to this installment of Talkback Highlights.
Thank you so much, John. And how do you like the spell checker, John? Is it something you kind of enjoy, or you're not
I'm
particular
not.
about?
I'm probably not going to use it too often, and to be honest, it was hard to get it to work. I couldn't. This is no surprise, but I couldn't get it to work on my Samsung phone. But it's not officially supported,
really?
so yeah, maybe that's something Samsung will fix before they release their version. But even on my Pixel, it was hit and miss. Like I couldn't get it to work in Google Keep for some reason. I had to actually go to the Messages app to get it to work. And
That's annoying.
yeah, and I have autocorrect turned on Gboard, so if I'm typing with Gboard, I'm not going to have any errors anyway. So I use the Braille input keyboard to actually be able to intentionally misspell some things to get to be able to demonstrate it. But yeah, I think it has some work to go. When it works great, but I think it needs to be a little bit more consistent when it works and when it doesn't.
Oh, I don't use autocorrect. That's dangerous. If you don't check what you're sending.
I do agree
Oh.
that, that thing needs some work because I want to be able to say when I just change my granularity to the spell checker and I tap, then it should just work right. But a lot of times, like you said, John, it doesn't work well. And so it takes a lot of just trying, and it's not very good. But it's a good start and it's a good idea.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll improve over time.
And now we move on to a new segment that we're just starting, and that's the listeners' questions. And by the way, if you want to send us a question that you do not want on the email list, but you want to send the podcast crew a question, where there's a voice message, you go to our website, you could send us a message there or send us a question there. You could send it as a written text or you could send it as a voicemail. And that's by going to blindandroidusers.com. And in that contact us, you can send us your questions and things like that. So this week, we have an audio message from someone regarding the fact that the actions are not working well or actually not even working on his phone. And now here's that question that the listener has asked.
Hi everyone. Since updated to Talkback 13.1, the new swipe method to access actions does not work. Whenever I access an action, it says action setting not enabled, while in the Talkback menu they work. So when accessing actions through the Talkback menu, they work. When accessing the Talkback settings in the reading controls, customized reading controls, actions are not listed. So maybe it's some kind of bug, or I don't know. But in any case, I think that this will encourage more app developers to incorporate actions in their apps, because it makes things much easier.
John, you want to take a crack at this and maybe tell us a little walk around that this listener might find like a useful tool for next time someone comes across the same problem?
Sure. So I haven't been able to reproduce this, and I haven't had this issue myself, but it's a pretty bad issue because, as he explained, when you try to use an action, it says actions not enabled or something along those lines. And the problem with that is now that actions are the default granularity, the default action is activate. So like if you're on your home screen and you just want to double tap on something, that is now an action. So it won't even let you open up apps to get to the app. So this is a bad bug. It's very rare. I think I've only seen like 2 or 3 people with the issue. But yeah, in our mailing list, Warren, you actually suggested to somebody try clearing the app data for Android Accessibility Suite. And somebody did report back that actually fixed it for them. Obviously, you're going to lose all your settings and everything, and you're going to have to start from scratch if you've customized your gestures and anything like that. But, if your phone is pretty much broken at this point, that's what you're going to have to do. And like I said, this is rare, but I have seen people report that did fix it for them. So hopefully that solves the issue for the listener that sent us that message.
Where would they go in order to delete those settings?
Okay, good question. So you can go into settings and then you'll go to apps and then you'll find a list of all your installed apps. You'll go to Android Accessibility Suite. You'll open that and you'll just go to the storage section of that page. Once you're in the storage section, there'll be 2 buttons, clear cache, clear data. You're going to hit clear data and then it'll ask you if you're sure, and you hit yes. After that, you will probably have to re-enable Talkback. I'm not sure, but if it just completely turns it off and it doesn't turn back on, then just do whatever your accessibility shortcut is. So if it was to hold both volume keys, then just do that, and it should
Will
turn
it
it back
remember
on.
that? Will it remember that shortcut
Yeah,
though?
yeah, it does remember the shortcut.
Oh, phew, because otherwise that would be really annoying.
So the whole idea is that after you clear the data, what happens is like you're like starting your phone anew, but you're not starting your phone anew, but in reality, you're starting accessibility suite, anew. So you have whatever method you used, you have to use that. So you have to hold down those two volume keys like John had indicated, and then it'll pop up Talkback, Talkback Accessibility Suite, and then you go through, you can tab the close, or you can go through the tutorial as though you're starting it for the first time and things like that. And as John indicated, the problem with that is that you lose all of your customizations. So if you created some gestures for specific actions and all of that, you'll have to go do that again. But then it's worth it because you're now able to use your phone again. And that's one of the reasons to do that. And sometimes these things happen because someone gets a major OS update and doesn't follow my doctrine of resetting to factory defaults. So things like this would creep on and now and then, but instead of doing a whole factory reset, then you could just go ahead and do this clearing of your accessibility and then go back and re-customize your Talkback.
One of the most noticeable things might be, because some of us, we have our phones on a much faster rate than by default. So one of the most noticeable things immediately when you've done that might be how much more slowly the speech says things, so you'd have to speed that up, wouldn't you? And does it go back to the default speech as well, like the Google voice or the Samsung voice, rather than if you've got vocalizer or something?
No, your
Presumably it would forget.
TTS setting will stay, whatever TTS you have enabled will still be the default. But yeah, if you sped up the speech from within Talkback using the granularities, then it's going to be very slow. And if you've turned off sounds or turned off vibration, like I've always turned off vibration. So that's the first thing I notice after I've cleared, is that vibrations are back. So that's one of the first things I do, is go in and turn that off.
Oh, you don't want those good vibrations.
No, they're a little too good for me.
Yeah, so it's the same thing with me. I have my sounds and vibrations turned off, and every time I reset that, of course, everything falls back to defaults, and therefore you're going to hear all those bongs and bangs and all those vibrations that I find very annoying. And so you have to go back in there and re-customize your things back to what they used to be, but at least it fixed your problem.
Can you back up those settings?
That's one of
Just
the
those
things that I've been
settings.
talking about. I wish we could have something that we could back up our settings, just like those labels that we could create and backup labels and things like that. I think it will be a very good feature for Talkback to implement, so that if I'm going to be resetting my Talkback or Android accessibility suite, I back up my settings, and once I reset, then re-import those settings, and I'm good to go. Something that needs to happen.
That would be good.
As of now, the only way to restore your settings is when you're setting up a new phone and you're restoring from a backup. It will bring all your settings over for that new phone, but there's no manual way to back up your settings and restore them yourself if you have to go and do something like this and clear the data. So yeah, it would definitely be, I would definitely use it a lot, because I'm always like uninstalling Talkback, reinstalling Talkback. So I've set up my settings so many times. It would be nice to just be able to import them.
If you got a new phone though, presumably you'd be getting all your stuff on the new phone then, not just the accessibility settings. So that's a bit annoying that you can't just have the accessibility settings.
No, you do get your accessibility settings. For example, if I get a new phone and I sign into my same account, or the way
Yeah.
I customize my Talkback is going to be on that new phone. I'm not going to hear all the bings and bongs and vibrations, and all of my customized gestures are going to be there. And the same thing is
Oh,
like
good.
resetting my phone to factory defaults. And once I set it back up again, it grabs those from my backup of my data from my phone. But we would like to see a situation whereby if I, without resetting my phone, if I clear the data of Talkback, I should have the capability of re-importing my settings, because at this point, the only way that that's going to happen is when you have to reset the phone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
well, that's
there's
stupid. You shouldn't have to do that.
yeah,
Exactly.
because it's there on the back end. Like they're already saving your settings and importing your settings. It's just all happening automatically. There's no way for you to be able to say, okay, I want my settings back. So it seems like it would be an easy thing to implement because, like I said, it's already there. They just don't allow you to get to it as the user and manually do it.
And that will be it for that question. Again, if you have any questions that you'd like us to talk about on the podcast, feel free to send it to us at contactus@blindandroidusers.com, or you could go to our webpage, and from there you could leave us a voicemail or send us a regular text message, that is an email and all of that, and we'll read that here and answer your questions. And that will bring us to the close of this episode. But then Austin standing by to give you information on how to get hold of us. Should you need information on how to get hold of us via our different social networks and all of that. Austin?
For people to locate us, they can email us with their questions or feedback or comments or recording submissions to contact us at blindandroidusers.com. They can browse our website, blindandroidusers.com. Check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/blindandroidusers. Subscribe to our mailing list, Blind Android Users, plus subscribe at groups.io. The links for Telegram and Twitter, Clubhouse will be in the show notes with all the other links. So that is it from us this week.
And that concludes this episode 111. From me, it's goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Later.
Thanks for listening to another clip from the Blind Android Users channel. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you're notified of every new material that we upload. Thanks again for listening to the Blind Android Users channel.